Hello and welcome to the Voice of ASUW Elections podcast. I am Francisco Reaa, he, him pronouns, and I am the 2024 to 2025 Outreach Co-Chair. And today we have Jacob Gannon, Reaa's predecessor, who's working on the audio systems for today because we've been having some struggles with that. But Jacob, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Francisco, for the introduction. I'm Jacob Gannon, he, him pronouns. And like Francisco said, I was the Operations Co-Chair last year. I had a really great time running the elections, and I'm really looking forward to the next few weeks watching over these two.
Yeah, we should be a fun time. We're just going to be talking about elections, ASUW, and everything kind of related to that. So I think, why don't we just talk about what you looked forward to last year? Like, how'd you try to manage getting the elections out of its 3.4% turnout gutter that we were in?
Honestly, it was pretty daunting looking forward. There was really poor turnout, especially since 2019, that year before the pandemic. It had been continually decreasing year by year. And like you said, we finally got down to that point of 3.5, 3.6%, where almost no one was turning out. So we had a really big task ahead of us. And I guess Sophia, who was my outreach co-chair partner, she and I worked to reestablish the programs we had successfully in the past, and then launching some new initiatives like our presidential debate, which was located in the hub, relaunching new and more straightforward means to get people registered as candidates, and everything in between.
Yeah, and a lot of those efforts, like, me and we are really trying to continue on this year. Like, we're expanding on the presidential debate. We're also increasing our own engagement. You guys, we started the OMAD and SAB forum. Like, we are working to like make it more of a broader focus with like diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So including like the Q Center, the D Center. So you guys really did like pull us out of that gutter, and like we're ready to walk. And with those initiatives that you put us forward, and hopefully next year, as we try to make ASUW have a turnout goal of 25% by 2030, we do think that we're on track to reach that. So it's all about really passing the baton of work and initiatives each year. And so
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we put in a lot of work to get to where we are now, and I think based on the work that you two have put in, and over the next couple of years, we can definitely get to that 25% mark within the next decade of ASUW's amazing future.
Exactly. And I think it was like after 2018 that was like, what was it called? Good voter turnout goal. What's the word for it in the bylaws? Like, what's it technically?
Essentially, widespread voter turnout.
Yes,
widely publicized election.
Exactly, yeah. A well-publicized election is technically a 25% thing, and that was because of the controversy of the 2017 election when only one ticket technically registered to run, and so that caused a lot of complications and debate over the democratic nature of those elections, and so that's why they put that goal in there. Because before, it was just 3 advertisements within the daily, and I think that's technically in there still, but yeah, it's all about getting students to turn out and vote and educating them on ASUW elections, and that's what a lot of these outreach efforts have been. And so, a lot of fun doing those things.
I know you brought up one really important thing and interesting thing about how we do things on the UW campus in Seattle for ASUW elections. We don't recognize tickets anymore. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so tickets, they've been around as long as our democratic process has been about. Well, we can't really go back to our first elections all the way over 100 years ago, but they really good documentation of it comes from like the 1990s. And so they were part of the registration process and filing process for candidates up until, again, like 2017, 2018, when the bylaws were reformed and the elections policies and procedures for that year were amended to say, like, the ASUW EAC does not recognize tickets. And so, because they were, during that time, identified as a hindrance, or kind of prevented inclusivity of the elections and kind of gave greater attention to those candidates who earned tickets and gave them an unfair advantage. And so that's why they were unrecognized by the ASUW and the AAC. And so we've had a lot of discussions about that in since then, and we likely will. So
I know in the EPP last year, we did our best to make sure that although we don't allow tickets, we're not prohibiting people's free expression and free speech. So while you may not be recognized on the ballot or in the election guide, you're kind of free to form alliances with other candidates and campaign with them. How does that look this year moving forward, and are there any changes?
Yeah, that is that section within the EPP, Article 1, Section 1, that states like tickets and collaboration. That's the part that says we may not recognize tickets, but all candidates, of course, can collaborate with one another and one together. There was this is kind of tangentially related. It's the advertisements that some candidates have, and so there was some controversy and some violation associated with that last year. Especially, we had a big discussion of that during the complaints hearing last year, and so we established a official advertisements registry. So like so candidates and all and their campaign managers can like upload official campaign materials that they're doing, like whether it's a poster or a sticker and stuff like that. And so the AC and the digital committee can differentiate which one's like a fake advertisement and one that's actually promoted by the campaigns themselves, because we don't want to get that mixed up. And so that's something that we've established this year that hopefully makes it easier. So
with digital media, does all of that apply to like Instagram accounts, Facebook, TikTok, anything that candidates use online?
That is a wonderful question. I don't think we took that into account, so we'll have to think about that within the committee. So yeah, everything's, and that's a good point. Like everything's evolving. Obviously, social media is going to be a big way that candidates go out there and vote and get students to vote, get their attention. And I think the registry was really focused on like those physical advertisements, because that was the problem that we had last year, was like a poster somewhere or a sticker in the hub, which you can't do. So we didn't take that in mind, and we'll no doubt reflect on the election this year and realize we got some more things to work on, and hopefully recommend those to our successors. So, yeah.
Although ASUW elections are definitely changing over time, one thing that's the same from last year and that ASUW has been doing really well for a long time is ranked choice voting.
Yeah.
In ASUW, we call it instant runoff voting, where the candidate with the least votes, if a candidate doesn't have a majority already, gets eliminated, and you continue on with that process until someone has the support of at least half of the students voting on campus. How do you view that moving forward at UW, and hopefully like using ASUW and UW as an example for the rest of the world?
The world, wow! Aren't you looking forward, Jacob? Goodness. We adopted it in 2005, I believe, and it was largely came out through like a student senate resolution, and back in 2002. So it definitely took the ASUW a couple years to do that, but then again, we were one of the first institutions to implement IRV. So, like, I think it was like some other universities. It might have been California. I can't really remember, but that's why the Wayback Machine is really important and helpful in this area. But I do think, because we had a lot of troubles with accountability and ensuring that students' voices were heard by making the candidate that actually won a majority of the votes actually be in office, and because once you have like 4 or 5 presidential candidates running for office, they're not likely going to achieve a majority of that vote. And so that's why RV is like a really good system to ensure that. And seeing how that can be done at other schools, I don't believe Bothell, ASUW Bothell, our sister campus, does that. I believe Tacoma does, and some other universities do that as well. But we are looking forward to that, and hopefully we're able to continue that method. And I don't know. I hope we can have those discussions with other universities as well. But yeah. So, what thinking about all these engagement methods, like, what do you think if you had the resources to do something, like thinking about last year, like you could have expanded the candidates fair in some way, or conduct another forum, like looking back from from your time last year, what do you think you could have improved upon?
Well, I think ASUW itself has a pretty big marketing challenge ahead of it. Um, we have over 70 employees at any one period in time, except for the summer, of course, when our board of directors does most of the heavy lifting. But because of that, we have a lot of different sub-organizations within our association that lots of students either don't know about or don't associate with the larger group. So when we're putting on events, when we're doing programming and divvying out resources for different student groups and RSOs, people don't necessarily understand everything that we're doing for students.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess one way that elections can improve on that issue is really by pulling together the resources and programs that we already have to kind of use as an example to students what we are doing and why they should care about elections. So I think for you and Reaa, as you continue to promote elections over the next few weeks, really do your best to reach out to libraries and different events that are being put on by students already to make sure that we're putting ourselves into their hands so that they don't have to reach out and do the work themselves.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Outreach obviously is my area, and that's why I've like worked with other ACW entities, like the Bean Basket, like doing the Bean Vote. That was pretty fun. Contacting facilities to see if they can put like an infographic of the elections during on their TV monitors around campus, and so that's been good. And speaking on reaching out to other student groups and things like that, we've tried to conduct more events and make it less administrative and bureaucratic. That's been a really big initiative that Reaa has been doing, and she's been doing really well with that, trying to make it more fun for students. So that's why we conducted a tour of the King County's elections facility right after the election. So we literally got to go and see King County elections count the ballots, the balloting process. They had a concrete floor because there's like millions of ballots that are counted within the county, so they had to have a strong enough floor to hold them all up. And that was a fun event that we held with the Office of Government Relations, which is our main like student lobbying effort and group that ACW has. So it was fun coordinating that event with them. And yeah, some other big things that we've been really working on when it comes to outreach and pulling together the resources that ACW has is our ACW Fair that we're planning to hold with all our diversity commissions, with the Student Senate, the board, our other ACW entities, because we really do got to showcase all the things that ACW provides, its programs, its initiatives, because we already do so much right now, but I don't think that's really showcased to students. And that will be April 18th, and so just before the election, and that'll be a fun way to get all these students involved, like right on the hub lawn, fun games, and all the presidential debate will be happening like at the end. So it will be a fun way to get students to know about ASUW. So
Yeah, that's really cool. I know that just for Sophia and I, putting on only 3 candidate forums, the presidential debate, and an elections ethics seminar was quite a bit of work for the two of us. So are there additional people working with your committee to make sure that implementation of the new events you're creating for students goes off without a hitch?
Yeah, we have such an expansive amount of students participating in the EIC this year. It's kind of crazy. We have interns, we have volunteers, we have like roughly 50 people have applied to at least be a volunteer or like an intern during this time, and it's really cool. We're trying to, from my perspective, and you can get this as like the said advice speaker as well, we're trying to get it EAC to be as looked to like as other kind of AUCW entities, because I don't think we have that same attention. That's where like the fun kind of portion of that comes in. Like we plan the ACW fair, we have like a bunch of people planning that as well, working on the voters guide, reaching out to food trucks. It's been an interesting experience, and for me and we had to like delegate those responsibilities out to the members. it's been fun, and seeing how we can get more people involved. Poll working, that's going to be a big thing that we're trying to do around campus during the election period. And it's been a mass effort, and like working with ASUW is going to be important. So that's why we're really excited to combine the student Senate forum with GPSS, so we can get graduate students involved. And so looking forward to that. Like, what do you think is going to be, what kind of perspectives does like the Senate bring, like when it comes to these its own forum, and like how do you think some senators might want to develop some questions, or like the perspectives from their own constituencies?
Yeah, I know on our end, the Student Senate is kind of the easiest way, we say, to get involved as a volunteer and then quickly move up through the ladder of ASUW. To become a senator, you need only 5 signatures, 5 of your friends to come onto our website, say that they want you to be their representative. You can also be a representative of your RSO, of your fraternity or sorority, a representative of one of our commissions for protected classes of students on campus. And so I guess when we start putting together our forum for candidates over the next couple weeks, we'll really be looking to see how many different perspectives, because the Senate is so diverse, that we can bring to the conversation, drawing both on political, resource, and programming efforts that all students are interested in. Within the Senate, we write our own policies, so we'll be looking to see how candidates view their role as board of directors, being framed within that lens of creating new ideas for the UW administration to consider and put into effect, and really just speak on behalf of their students like we do in the Senate.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm reflecting on, because the title of this podcast is draftly, if that's a word, is the voice of ASUW elections, because it might have been under the EAC itself or some other independent group, but they really focused on adding commentary to the elections process, looking at people's campaign statements and stuff like that. So giving an independent student perspective that's not necessarily the daily or the ASUW or EAC itself. And what do you think, some kind of, looking from the inside as someone who's been here for a while, what do you think students should be focusing on as we get nearer the elections? If you had to commentate in a way, what do you think students should be looking to when they read candidates or understand what they're trying to propose while running for office?
Yeah, for sure. ASUW has a lot of great potential. We have control over $1.5 million of student funds that are appropriated through the services and activities fee as of this year. That typically increases year by year, and so the influence of our association on campus is only going to grow, and that means that there's a lot of responsibility if you're a member of the board of directors with financial power to use those funds that students have trusted us with for programs, resources, and activities that students can rely on, engage with, and really have fun as they are working to get on their academic studying and work towards that degree that we all know that we're really here for. So yeah, I think as you're reviewing candidates' platforms, you should be thinking, is this a person I can trust with my money that I pay the university and that the university trusts ASUW with? Is this a person that has ideas that I can see myself engaging with as I'm on campus, walking around, finding things to do on a Friday afternoon when classes get out? Is this a person that I align my own values with and I can trust to represent me as they take time out of their day and part of their job duties to negotiate with different committees around campus and with administrators? Because I think those are the most important things that our representatives on the board do. So yeah, really evaluating who the candidates are as people and as students, because that's really their main prerogative.
Thank you. Those are good things to look into for candidates when you consider who to vote for this upcoming election, this April 21st through the 23rd. So we'd like to thank you all for listening to the Voice of ASUW Elections podcast. This is fun. We'll see how many of these we do in the future, and I would like to thank Jacob, for talking with us and coming over.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to it.